of band is this?
Everybody poops sometimes.
Give us this.
Wake up, sweetness.
Your first time should be more than special.
I'm in, Savannah said. Good Lord, Gemma.
When a man and a woman, in this case, really, really love each other, what happens is they fuck.
Ooh, hello?
Oh, dang it, I lost my fish.
This next word almost sounds like Quidditch. Quidditch milade Diana Agosiagath an Fiedian.
As much as I love fucking you, sweetness. We stared into each other's eyes whilst I moaned in ecstasy. Having consumed half of the bourbon, I keep saying bourbon. You know, every time I mess up on a word, Stunt Mama just shows up.
She had her seductive smile on her lips.
I said we couldn't have sex. I didn't say anything about everything else. Ew. Happy to help. Biatch. You are the spark of light in the vastness of my night. His note, like a finality to a beautiful, breathtaking song.
Hello. It is a pleasure to see you. You scared, bro? Rexter, what's up? It's a good one, isn't it? I like it. Yes. What was I going to say? Why is this so... My camera does that all the time. Anyway, good to see you guys. Welcome in. Welcome to another Sunday evening. Happy to be here with you. Broforce. So, a few things to mention. Delicious tea. I'm still at Stunt Mama, so I'll be late to stream. That's fine. Just stay there. You can all listen. So for those of you that don't know, there are new sub badges, so enjoy those. There are also now some new emotes that you can use. Had some new ones made. Those are live. And down below in the About section, I added an image link to my voiceover voice acting website. When you have a moment, I would love it if you could just kind of click around, poke on it a little bit. Just let me know what you think. Does it look okay? Should I change something? You know, that kind of stuff. I do plan on adding more sample content to it. I just haven't been able to quite get there yet. Also, I ordered like 10 minutes ago a new setup for my monitors. Right now, they're on their own stands side by side, but I've noticed when I want to play a game and stream, I have to look over here to play the game, and then chat's over here. Like nothing is in the center. You know what I mean? Like I'm looking at the camera right now, which is pretty much in the center, but my monitors are either side. So I want to get it so that I can go monitor. So I found a monitor stand that should let me do that based on what it's telling me. and then we'll give it a shout. We'll give it a try and see if it works. Because that way, I can stack them instead of going wide. So, yeah. That's the big magic plan right there. Now you know. Now you know. Enjoy that puzzle. It was one I was going to have people do when I was doing the truck sim. But I liked it so much that I wanted to keep it because it's a really nice picture. Okay, so that's pretty much all the updating news I have. Oh my god. Mama House Gaming? I had no idea you were even live. Do you know how many people I've talked to today that have said, oh yeah, Twitch isn't telling me that so-and-so's live, etc., etc. I had no idea. I thought it was just them, but now it's happening to me too. Well, I hope you had a good stream. Let's find out what you did. God of War.
I got it now.
Forgot to put the clips thing on the top. There we go. You did? It was fun today? That's awesome. I'm glad. I got so involved in that story. I mean, if it's a good story, that's what you're supposed to do, right? So, good for you. The drawing for the backpack, which right here. Lovely backpack. Kind of a laptop themed backpack. That drawing is still live and active. I will be drawing a winner when I have my birthday stream, which is really just a stream that's coinciding with my birthday. So that's the only reason I call it that. Super. Thank you for gifting a sub to Mama House Gaming. He just wants the backpack. Got it. Hi, Kay. Let me spin the wheel. I almost forgot about that. You spin me right round. Don't worry about it, Mama House Gaming. 5 regular curls. Done. Or apparently not. What happened? Don't I need to, like, re-log in or something? No. Oh, okay, now it's in there. Wow, that was super delayed. Get it together, Stream Elements. Yeah, so that's all the news I had that I wanted to share. Got the drawings right here, so someone's gonna win. My birthday is technically on the 31st, but if I pull up my calendar, 31st is a Friday. I'll stream on the 30th, like I normally would. It's a Thursday night, and that'll be the night that I do the drawing. So, just to get everyone on track with what's happening. So, so yeah, someone is gonna win a backpack. And I'll probably also provide a second option just in case you don't want the backpack. So I'll do either the backpack or a gift card, and we can talk about where and all that stuff. But so that way, if you're like, yeah, I want the backpack, but I have a backpack, you know what I mean? You'll still win something. Anyway, I've blabbered on enough. Okay, it's lovely to see you. Lovely to see all of you. I am very glad you could be here. We're gonna have a lot of fun tonight. Also, since we are coming pretty close to the end of this book, we'll have a short gap before the next book, but just to give you a quick look. And The Shadow of the Black Moon. This was recommended to me by a friend, and I'll be reading the back cover to you very soon to get you curious as well, but that is the book we'll be reading next. So it's gonna be a good time. Keep your daughter busy so she can leave the puzzle to me. That's funny. Wait, is she in the puzzle right now? I don't feel like I heard the ding. Onyx Storm soon? Yes, I've already ordered a copy. It should be here within days, actually. Ready to go. Looking forward to that one. And Katie is here. Hello, Katie. Katie is our author, for those of you that don't know that yet. Exclamation point someone will get you a link to her author page where you can find this book and so many more. You will not be disappointed. Katie, it's such a bittersweet moment when we get to the tail end of a story, of a book, because we've been so eager to read it, and now all of a sudden it's coming to an end. And we want to see how it ends, but at the same time, it's ending. Because that's how endings work. All right. I've blabbed on enough. Let's read a story. We're starting out tonight on chapter 45, page 301 in the printed version. And this chapter is Irene Adler's perspective. So sit back, relax, and I will read you a story. Sophia arrived later that evening, joining us for pre-dinner drinks on the patio. I asked the maid to replenish the wine glasses before dismissing her. Ladies, may I have your attention? There is a matter I wish to discuss with you. Violetta looked over at me with a concerned expression on her face. What is it, Neen? I removed a letter from my handbag, placing it on my lap. This is a letter from Sherlock Holmes. He wrote to me shortly after I left Fiesole. My father, unfortunately, intercepted the letter before I had a chance to read it. However, I would like to read some of it to you. Now, if you remember, that's kind of how we left it off last time. Like, she knew there was a letter, but who knows? The ladies nodded in agreement. After reading the letter, I looked at my friends and said, when I discovered Nico's birth was likely to be viable, I wrote to Sherlock. I realized it was time to let him know. I take it you received no response? Said Violetta. Surfman, oh my gosh. My guy, how are you? It's been a hot minute since I've seen you. I love it when I see your name pop up, because you're a good guy and you make me happy. What can I say? That's the honest truth. I'm so glad to see you. I hope you are doing well. I really do. Get me up to speed while I read. I shook my head. No, Violetta. My father also intercepted my letter to Sherlock, but do you see, this is the reason I heard nothing from him. He believes that I rejected him not once, but twice. Any deception to Sherlock would be completely unacceptable. He could never forgive any deceit or betrayal. I paused for a moment, but I feel that I must at least try for Nico's sake. Sophia glanced across at me, a look of grave concern etched upon her lovely face. Nin, why are you dredging this up again after all this time? I'm sorry about your letters. Your father had no right to conceal them from you. God bless his soul. But to bring up Sherlock Holmes again after all this time, why, it is madness. You're going to be hurt all over again. Why would you do it? Surfman says, love you, my guy. Life has been crazy the last 9 months or so. Going between Bali and home. Wow. Rough journey, but a fun one. Wow. How long did that take? That's insane. I hope it was worth the trip, though. I'm doing pretty good. Yeah. Are there things I can complain about? Of course. But I'm trying to see things glass half full. You know what I mean? Life's too short to be down in the dumps all the time. So just tackle things as they come. It's really good to see you, man. Thank you so much for being here. I miss your face. Because, Sophia, earlier this week my son looked me in the eyes and asked, why don't I see my daddy like the other children? It broke my heart. And you got raided? No. It's the Twitch friend group. Let me hang for a bit. Absolutely. Manja, thank you so much, man. I didn't know you were live either. What is going on? Thank you so much for the raid. How are you? What were you getting up to? Okay, that was a lot of noise all at once. What just happened? Got ready to run, but love you, bro. No worries, Manja. Thank you for bringing your people over. And Surf, what are you doing? Did you just... You gifted 5 subs to Kay, Smaxwell, Melrose. Oh, I think I know who that is. Acoustium and Toxic Giggles. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Surf. You didn't have to do that. That was really kind of you. And now, you get put in the drawing. So I apologize. Need to pause the reading for a second. Surfman is joining the drawing. I'm not going to put the numbers because you're the only Surfman I know. And then I'll spin the wheel because we got to add some more gains. And I think Melrose, who showed up, is this person. I could be wrong. But I don't think I am. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Surfman, thank you so much. You are now in the drawing. You're probably like, I don't even know what the drawing is. But you're in it. Now let's spin the wheel. So I can add some workouts. Squats. Okay, the first one is squats. I'm definitely going to be doing some of these today. Surf.
I'm gonna steal some of their chains.
That's not a thing. I miss you too, but you don't have to go doing that. Thank you for the other 5 more subs. Sith Duck, Lambo, Imperial Product, The Schmidt Show, and Holy Mystic. Some of those names I don't actually recognize. You are correct. Nice to see you in action after hearing so much about you. I wondered. It was great to see you. Thanks for being here, Melrose. I'm looking forward to starting your book, too. Holy Mystic, hello. Surfman, I need you to pick. That was spin number 4, so I need you to pick between hammer curls, regular curls, squats, push-ups. I gotta do this 6 more times because of you. Oh, you get to pick twice. You won't, I don't have planks. It's not a thing. Can't pick planks. You can only pick what's over here. What's that? More push-ups. Okay. Add plank. No. I'm not adding planks to it. I mean, it's not a bad idea. Maybe I should, but I'll have to do it later. So come on, you've got 2 to pick. Correction, you've got 3 to pick. 1 more spin. Well, sit. And more squats. Okay, so I just need your 3 of what's on the screen. And then we can get back to the book. And I'll definitely be doing some workouts today. Squats, push-ups, curls. What you got? Give it to me. Squats, push-ups, curls. Okay. Squats. Push-ups. Curls. Thank you very much. Well, sit. It's like squats, but on the wall for an extended time. Serve. Manja, Stun Mama, Kilobyte, Thump, Buzz Lightbeers. That's a great name. I'm not sure who that is. I've said I miss you too, but that doesn't. Surf, thank you for the 15 gifted frickin' subs. I'm sorry, folks. We're having an intermission right now. Squats. It's a good thing I don't have work tomorrow because we're not going to get out of here on our normal scheduled time. Hammers. Or is it just hammer? Yeah, hammer. Pretty sure. Yes. Here comes number 3. I want a 5K run ASAP. God, I would actually be in the hospital if I had to do that. I owe 30 squats. My ass is gonna hate you. Hammer. All right, 1 more. And then I need to put your name in here like 10 more times as well. Surf, I mean this in the nicest way, but you have to leave. Christini, Chris the Human, the Luna Bunny, the Lady Wrights, and Rexter, all getting a sub because of you. My God. I wish you were here, and then I can give you a big old bear hug. Although you'd probably give me a big old bear hug. I need to put your name in the drawing 15 times. And I need to spin the wheel. Good God. Please stop. All right, you get to pick. Just gonna keep this going. Okay, squats. Yeah, he obviously wants the backpack. Here comes number 3. Oh, I get to pick. Fantastic. I guess we'll do hammers. All right. Number 4. More squats. Good lord. You know what? I think I do need those planks in here just to switch it up a bit. Give me some variety. Streamer picks. I guess we'll add more to curls. Surf, you get to pick one. Thank you for the show of appreciation in here. That was above and beyond, to say the least. Squats, of course. I don't have a butt, really, so I think it'll help now that I owe 45. I saw as a ding. I read the ding. I have answered to the ding. Thank you to the gift sub also. Toxic. Welcome in. Yes, Surfman was very generous and gifted a lot of people subs. So it's good to see you. Thanks. If there's no objections, I read to you. Sorry I've not been around. I miss you like I can't even imagine. Dude, don't even worry about it. I'm just glad that you're here right now and that we get your vote doesn't count, Super. That we get to hang out a little bit. Please just keep your hands on the keyboard though. Thank you. That'd be great. All right. I hope everyone had a good weekend. Yeah, not bad. Hope you did too. I gotta figure out where the heck I was. Oh, right. We were still at the top of the page. Stay warm out there and take your vitamin C. That's right. Vitamin C is a godsend. All right. Yeah. My son asked, why don't I see my daddy like the other kids? It broke my heart. And then she responded with, and what did you tell him? I told him the truth, of course. That his father lived in England, where he had a significant job helping people who were in trouble. Nico is naturally curious. He doesn't understand why he cannot see his father. I sighed. Sophia, this is why I need to try to contact Sherlock. I could not look Nico in the eyes again if I didn't at least try. I don't want my son to suffer because of my personal failings. We're going to be 80 degrees this week. Yeah, that sounds terrible. Just, gosh. What are you going to do? It's not like it's 3 degrees here right now and feels like -4. But it's fine. Neen, you know that I adore you. Sophia wrinkled her nose. But I'm afraid you have a blind spot where that man is concerned. Sherlock Holmes cut you off like a decaying limb and never looked back. He may be married by now, or at least have another woman. Although I have to say that he is rather an acquired taste, I fail to understand what attracted you to him in the first place. Thank you for the hype train, and thank you for all the love. That was too much, but my gosh, thank you. Uh-oh, denied once again. Are you out of balls? It sucks when you're out of balls. No one likes to be out of balls. Violetta flashed Sophia a look of disdain. You may have met Sherlock Holmes, Sophia, but you never knew him. He is a man of conviction and principle, decisive, honest, and smart. Honesty is such an underestimated trait in a man. Don't you think? They seem like pretty good qualities to me. I didn't realize you were such an avid fan of his, said Sophia. I know a good man when I see one. He is also godfather to my son. Sherlock was unlike any other man I have ever known, I said. He always told you the absolute naked truth, whether you were ready for it or not. And after all the bullshit from the other men in my life, I found that to be so refreshing. Don't get me wrong, being with him could be challenging at times. We had disagreements and debates just like any other couple. Our relationship was unusually intense, filled with passion and a deep, abiding love for one another. Sophia stared at me, aghast. Neen, he was supposed to be protecting you, not seducing you. Well, let me tell you, Sophia, he managed to do both with considerable aplomb. The ladies burst into a peal of laughter. I became a whetstone for his mind. I stimulated him mentally and physically. Neither of us set out looking for love, far from it, but it crept up on us unexpectedly. Sophia stared at me hard. I don't doubt that it was a serious love affair, Neen. But what about Nico? That man must have a heart of stone to turn his back on his child. I shook my head. No, you are wrong, Sophia, and there will be no other woman. Sherlock may well have washed his hands of me. One can hardly abandon someone traveling halfway across the world and then expect to pick up where you left off. There are few second chances in life. Sherlock would never turn his back on his son. Of that, I'm sure. He never replied to my last letter. I wrote to him again after Nico was born and even sent him a photograph. And you still heard nothing from him? Said Sophia. No, not a word. I don't believe he even opened the envelope. I keep turning over in my mind the events that could have transpired and how Sherlock would address the situation. After much deliberation, I have deduced that there can only be two possible explanations. One, he destroyed the letter without opening it. The other is that he kept it without reading it. If I were a betting woman, that's the one I would go for. If he had read my letter, I would have heard from him by now. He's still angry with me for leaving Fiesole and is blissfully unaware that it took everything I had to close the door on our relationship. Still, of course, I have no way of knowing. That is mere speculation. I paused for a moment. There is one thing I can do to get his undivided attention. Another way to reach him. Sophia stared at me, aghast, shaking her head. I frowned. Oh, Sophia, I know that look. You're looking at me askance. Please, don't do that. Sophia slowly sipped from her glass. Her eyes narrowed. For God's sake, Neen, there's a fine line between love and madness. But please tell me you will not travel to London to see this man. I find your dismissal of him having no other woman to be naive and fanciful. You couldn't possibly know that. Violetta held up her hand, interrupting the conversation. Sophia, Neen is right. If I had not seen how they interacted together with my own eyes, I would never have believed it. I have never seen Sherlock look at anyone the way he looked at Neen. Violetta glanced over at me, smiling affectionately, before continuing. It was obvious he was deeply in love with you, Nin. No, it's not arrogance. Call it women's intuition. I smiled at Violetta. Don't worry, Sophia. I have no intentions of returning to the gloomily ruthless streets of London. God, how I hate that place. I would not travel all that way to be unsure of a welcome. But go I would if I thought for 1 second that Sherlock would see me. But why him? Sophia exclaimed. You've become fixated on this man. Look in the mirror. You are stunning, witty, and bright. The funniest person I have ever met. You could have any man you want. I glared at Sophia, arching an eyebrow almost to the point of snapping. You have no idea how many times in my life I've heard that expression, Sophia. Sherlock was the only man who ever saw me as a person in my own right. He's not a gargoyle made of stone. He's human, just like you and me. I'm aware that you find him cold, standoffish, and aloof, and yes, of course, he can be all those things. But that is not the true measure of the man. He is also clever, complicated, kind, and compassionate, and so powerfully full of life. Sophia looked at me with an exasperated expression. You must try not to allow him to consume you like this, Nin. I love you like a sister, and I know I can say anything to you, so please believe me when I tell you that he's never coming back. Those embers are never going to flame up again. You need to accept that. I shook my head and glared at Sophia defiantly. I don't want to reunite with him, Sophia. That ship has long sailed. I've managed to build a new life, and with the help of you and my wonderful friends, I am finally moving forward. I love my job. I love working with the little ones, especially the underprivileged children I help with my charities. But, that said, I still need to get in touch with Sherlock. He must see his son.
I'm lurking now.
Gemma, I know you're lurking, but I just wanted to tell you I tried to do the donate thing on your stream and it still didn't work. That was all. Thank you for the lurk. He must see his son. He deserves that at least. Sherlock said something to me a while we were on the train to Florence that gave me an idea. Ladies, the answer to my quest lies in the gossip columns of the Times and the Telegraph. Oh no, I know, every time I try to process it, it just keeps telling me there's a problem. I don't know if it's me or you or... I don't know. I mean, it shows my account, so it's not like it's not connecting to me. So I don't know. May I recommend, you're using the donate from Streamlabs. I recommend using Stream Elements. To me, it feels much more user-friendly. Just throwing that out there as an option. The ladies stared at me with bemused expressions. I returned their gaze, giddy with excitement. What will Mr. Holmes most look forward to every morning? Why, the arrival of the newspaper, of course. He scans the gossip columns religiously every day. I was having issues with PayPal today. Maybe that's it then? It won't let me send it because it can't connect to yours. That could be it. Sophia raised an eyebrow, a smirk replacing her frown of suspicion. Sounds like a real catch. Why does he read them? Oh, Sophia, for reasons too tangled to go into just now, I'll explain to you later over dinner. I smiled at the ladies. I am determined to send him a message. Incognito, of course, but he will be aware it's from me. Sherlock rarely plays games, so if I want to get his attention, I must use words. The gossip columns are the idea vessel. But of course, I must be careful how I word my message. It cannot be so direct that others would notice. The press would have a field day if they discovered Nico was Sherlock's son. I have no wish to embarrass him. Sophia turned to me aghast. Sophia is aghast a lot. Embarrassed, Neen? My God, you were not the one left holding the baby. You were the one. She literally was the one left holding the baby. Would it not just have been easier to have told him about the child when you were in Fiesole? Sophia, I didn't know if my baby would live or die at that stage. You were aware of my medical condition. I had to protect Sherlock and my child. I was, in truth, about to tell him. Then I received a visit from his brother, the formidable Mycroft Holmes, warning me that I would be putting all our lives at risk if I returned to England with Sherlock and continued our relationship. Mycroft gave me no choice. Of course I couldn't tell Sherlock then. I had to leave Fiesole to protect him and Nico. When I received the news that Nico's birth was likely to be viable, I knew then that I must tell him. It was the right thing for Sherlock and my son. I don't want Nico to live a life of subterfuge and deception. He deserves to know the truth. I glanced around the patio at my friends and stood, refilling their glasses with wine. I raised my glass. A toast, ladies, to my calamitous history. Let's drink to fate. Let the chips fall where they may. Sophia and Violetta raised their glasses. To fate. Ladies, I continued, I understand I must be driving you to distraction, but at least this way I will have closure. All I want is for Sherlock to acknowledge his son. I realize that this must be hard for you all to comprehend, but I promise you this. If nothing comes of my advert, I will never again mention his name. Can we have that in writing, please? Quipped Sophia. She rolled her eyes at me, which sent us into fits of laughter. Ladies, I said, we're going to change the subject now to something far more lighthearted, I promise. Did I mention that I had a secret admirer? Sophia laughed. You've kept that quiet? Who is he? My physician from New Jersey, Abe Bernstein. He has he's professed his undying love for me on several occasions. He's a lovely man, a widower. Abe asked me to marry him before Nico was born. I turned him down, of course, but now he has become quite a friend. He is traveling to Italy for vacation to tour the lakes. He asked if he could take me out to dinner after the performance at La Scala, and I said yes, of course. I only hope he isn't going to propose again. I rolled my eyes in mock humor. Sophia flashed me a knowing look. Well, we shall all look forward to meeting the elusive Dr. Bernstein. But, what a coincidence that he's coming to see you on your birthday. How romantic. Are we not to be invited to this birthday soiree, or would we be in the way? No, not at all, I said. The more people, the merrier as far as I'm concerned. I want to avoid any awkward moments at all costs. Sophia and Violetta stared at each other with perplexed expressions. Where is Dr. Bernstein taking you to dinner? Asked Violetta. Lafayette, I believe. Why? Would you like to join us? A look of relief appeared on Sophia's face. She made a silent gesture to Violetta. What am I missing here, ladies? What's going on? I quizzed. Sophia looked at me sheepishly. you need to know that Lafayette already has a reservation for your birthday dinner. It was meant to be a surprise. What a lovely gesture, ladies. Thank you very much indeed, I said, overcome for a moment with emotion. Heavens, we're going to have quite a reunion. At least I won't have to be alone with Abe. I'm sure he'll understand when I explain the situation to him. Would it be so bad if Dr. Burston proposed to you again? He sounds like a decent man. He may be fretting for you, said Sophia. Yes, he may well be, Sophia, but I only love him as a friend. Although I am very fond of him, I've always made that abundantly clear. Yes, ladies, because that's what we love. I really like you, but stay over there. But you're really awesome. Don't get any closer. That doesn't drive us up the wall at all. I think it's time for some tea. What's everyone having to drink this evening? Oh, that's good stuff. Yet he still pursues you. Are you sure about that? Most of the time. Katie's got hot chocolate. Hot chocolate at this time of night, ma'am? It is almost 1 a.m. for you. What are you doing? Supa's drinking tea as well. Nice. Good job. Yet he still pursues you. He appears smitten. Are you certain you could not consider him as a husband? A mischievous expression appeared on Sophia's face. Sophia, I have already married someone I was not in love with. Look how well that ended. Anyway, I couldn't marry him, even if I wanted to. Gemma's got water. Good choice. Are you feeling any better, Gemma? I know you haven't been doing too well, so just wanted to be sure. Make sure you're doing all right. You know what I mean. Sophia looked at me suspiciously. Why ever not? A promise I made. It's complicated. It always is with you, my dear. I turned my attention to Violetta. You must be looking forward to Ava's debut at La Scala. I've been listening to her at rehearsals, and my God, her vocal interpretation is magnificent. You have quite a treat in store. Is Ludo still coming? Yes, of course, said Violetta. He wouldn't miss it for the world. Not his little girl. The sinus infection, yes. The allergic reaction to something else, no. Oh, sorry. Ouch. Yeah. So if I get patches put on me from like an ambulance or just, being at the hospital, I get these crazy welts. I look like someone tried to put pepperoni on me or something, and they're all over me right now. It's ridiculous. They're not as itchy anymore, which is nice, but for the first few days, whooey. Anyway. Sophia glanced over at Violetta. Robert has organized a private box for you and Ludo as a special surprise, but please don't tell him I told you. Oh, thank you so much, Sophia, Violetta nodded. I really appreciate it. You and Robert have been all kindness itself to Ava. My brother-in-law has been in touch with me recently and would love to come and hear Ava sing. Is it possible he could join us in the private box? We haven't seen him for several years, so it would be a real family reunion. He has no living siblings, and his parents died years ago. We're the only family he has left. "Oh, that is not a problem," said Sophia. "I will arrange it myself. There will be ample room." "Thank you," said Violetta. "I won't mention anything to Ava just in case he doesn't turn up. He's a lovely man, but not the most reliable of people. I would hate for Ava to be disappointed. They were extremely close." My middle finger on my right hand has a blood blister on the tip, and the rash is starting to go from my hand to my arm. Oh, gosh. That sounds terrible. Please tell me you've gone to a doctor about this, because that doesn't sound like something you want to deal with by yourself. I interrupted the conversation. "Listen to me, ladies. I have a macabre tale for you. I don't think I've ever told you this before, Violetta, but Gabriella, Anka's sister Maria, predicted supper. She said she was the seventh sister of a seventh sister, whatever that means. Got seventh sister, that's a... Going to fix dinner? I hope it's tasty. You'll have to let us know what you're making, so we can all be jealous and drool." Seventh sister. She told me the exact date and time Nico was born. Do you not find that spooky? Oh, trust me, it's nothing. You're cooking nothing? That's my favorite. Either a can of soup or a PB&J. Interesting. I guess it depends on the soup. I like a nice, hearty soup. Yes, I was throwing away the tube of medicine that caused this before without using a barrier. I did not think about it. Ouch. I hope you can recover quickly from that, Gemma. That does not sound pleasant. I'm very sorry. Nin, it's true that Gabriella had six sisters. But if you had been speaking to Maria, you would have needed a shovel. Violetta stared at me oddly. Maria was Gabriella's youngest sister. She passed away over 5 years ago. She was a seer, a shamanistic visionary. I laughed when she told me I would have a son. Ludo and I had given up all hope after so many years. I rather impudently asked her how she knew, and Maria told me that what she saw engulfed her. It is well documented in Via Sol that Maria had the gift of second sight. She was very godly, very devout. It is said that she sometimes appears in spirit, but only to those in need of her help. I looked at Violetta's askance. I don't believe it, I gasped. Perhaps it was someone playing a trick, said Violetta. Plus, I am monitoring my left arm for a reaction from the A1C medicine. Man, you're just in all kinds of great shape over there. I really hope you get a reprieve soon. Yes, it must be. There can be no other explanation. Well, whoever it was, whether ghost or trickster, her predictions have been strangely accurate. She even knew about Moriarty. What else did Maria say to you? She spoke of the father of my unborn child, I said softly, almost in a whisper. She said our souls hovered in flight, and he would cross over the water to find me. Well, she got that prediction wrong, said Sophia. Ava entered the room attired in a stunning olive green dress, her hair pinioned with hair grips. She broke into a wide grin upon seeing her mama and friends. Good evening, ladies. I have been asked to inform you that dinner is to be served in 10 minutes. Ava glanced over at me. Don't worry, Neen. The children are bathed and tucked up in bed and have said their prayers. I read them a nursery rhyme, although Nico insisted on interrupting halfway through and narrating it himself. That little boy's genius is no accident, interrupted Violetta, looking knowingly at me. That child had learned the alphabet by the time he was 14 months old. He's always asking for new books, and he can identify every single dinosaur from that encyclopedia I bought him. Yes, he loves to read about dinosaurs, I laughed. I'm well aware of where his genius comes from. I felt life was such a blessing when Nico was born. That little boy is my entire world. When I began to teach the younger children, Nico would watch, and one day asked if he could play the piano. The pianoforte. Of course I agreed to teach him, but it was never with any assumption that he possessed any aptitude until the other children started to comment on how talented he was. I will always strive to be supportive and encouraging in anything Nico wants to do. But most of all, I want my son to grow up understanding that his happiness is what matters to me. Sophia smiled at me. I must admit there's a skip in your step these days that I hadn't seen in a long time. A newfound joie de vivre. What you have achieved with your charities in such a short time is phenomenal. You deserve to be happy again. There's no question that you're a wonderful mother, Neen. However, Nico is exceptional for his age. You should have him tested and sent to a special school. They'll be able to provide private tutors who can channel his intellect. I shook my head. There will be no testing or special school, Sophia. I don't want my son to be singled out and made to feel different at such a tender age. Nico will be homeschooled for now until he is older, then I will see what he wants to do. I want to give my son the best possible childhood and be the best mother I can be. Well, the boy genius is now happily ensconced in the nursery with my brother, sleeping like little angels. They're the best of friends, those two. Inseparable, said Ava. Some angels, Violetta rolled her eyes. The gong sounded to announce dinner. I smiled warmly at my friends. Come, ladies, let's go in. The wine has given me quite an appetite. Sophia and Ava entered the dining room. Violetta had held back for a moment. She approached me and took my arm, a concerned expression upon her face. You have had a hard time these past few years, Neen. You must get lonely. Yes, I sometimes do, Violetta. But you know I have my little man to comfort me. And teaching the children, especially the younger ones, has brought some much-needed normality and focus into my life. I realize I have much to be thankful for. Violetta nodded in agreement. I don't believe we ever get over those who are special or memorable to us. Some people are not meant to be forgotten. You and Sherlock have an unbreakable bond. You understand each other. Mad Locust, so great to see you. Violetta smiled, taking my hand in hers. To understand all is to forgive all. I truly believe that you will see him again one day. I know that Sophia disapproves, but speaking as a mother, I think that you're right to pursue Sherlock. You should do everything you can to make peace with him, but most of all, Neen, you have to make peace and forgive yourself. For your own sake and Nico's, I hope you finally allow yourself some happiness. Would you like me to write to him? Oh, good God, no. Thank you, Violetta, I said, taken aback for a moment by Violetta's gesture. I love you for offering, though, but I cannot allow you to get embroiled in the mess that is my life. Anyway, Sherlock would not be impressed if I tried to reach him through a third party. He would consider that rude. But at least you're well-mentioned. Thank you. Or well-intentioned, excuse me. Violetta stared at me curiously. Do you regret meeting him? No, I don't regret it. I shook my head. Sherlock and I are responsible for bringing a beautiful boy into the world. I will treasure forever the time we spent together and the memories we made. Our relationship cut deep. It was bittersweet, and I miss him. And if you receive a reply from your message, and it's not the answer you're looking for, what then? Then it will be over, I shrugged. But at least I will have known love with a man who has no equal. How many can say that? I gazed into Violetta's eyes, smiling at her through tears. From all the sad words of tongue and pen, the saddest are these, it might have been. Come, Violetta, we must not be late for dinner, or we will not hear the end of it from Sophia. I had composed my adverts and signed 2 checks for the Times and the Telegraph well before breakfast. I ran out of the villa to post the envelopes, ensuring I was in time to catch the early morning collection. I was happy in the knowledge that my adverts would appear in the Times and Telegraph in 10 days. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of chapter 45. Oh boy. What a tangled web. What a sticky situation. I'm trying to imagine how this would play out in today's world. It'd be like, he's not answering my texts, he's not taking my calls, he's blocked me on Facebook. I don't know what to do. That would be hilarious. All right. We're going to get to 46 here in a moment, but I should do some of this workout stuff. Probably won't do it all right this second, but should definitely knock out some of it. So let's go do that. Thank you again for kicking my butt. All right. So we got some of it. We can get rid of all the curls. And it looks like we're doing an ad break. We can get rid of 15 squat, or 20 squats, sorry. Cool. So I put a little dent in it. All right, once the ad is done, we'll keep going. In the meantime, I need to write Surf's name down 15 more times. Sheesh. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 10. Why is paper so hard to separate? 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay, got him. All right, let's do this. Anyone got any interesting plans for tomorrow, if you have it off? It's going to be heckin' cold here. Oh, is the ad done? Yes, the ad is done. Sweet. I'm a bored stay-at-home person. What can I do? You could rearrange your office. That could be fun. I'm almost done with the names. What just happened? We're negative 14 right now. Sheesh. I have a new game for you, sir. I am addicted. Surf, you just... Thank you for the sub yourself, Surf. Please, what is the game? I'll just get an extra piece of paper while I'm here. I only just finished doing the 15. There we go, 16. And I need to spin the wheel. Crikey. We also read here, by the way. That's a thing. Regular curls that I just finished doing. Okay. Thank you, sir, for subbing for yourself as well. Let's see. Yes, that's a given. Waiting for the flooring to come in. I'm going to start painting in here, though. Nice. GTA 5 roleplay. Come with me and be my turn. I've seen a few people do the role play on GTA. What is that fancy border? How did you do that, Dry? At least I hide my resub. Wait, what? Huh? You hid? I'm so confused. Dry, good to see you. I'm fully invested. Come with me. See, that's the problem. I don't have time to be fully invested in something like that. Not between my regular job, my voice acting, and, you know. How did you hide it? Shouldn't it have shown up for me? I need my kitchen floor done. Well, I don't know what to tell you. No, if you don't click on the share message. Yeah, but shouldn't it show up in my... Well, I guess that's just an alerts feed, not everything feed. Well, heck. Thank you, Gemma. I'm going to put your name in the drawing. So there. Thank you, Gemma. And I'll spin as well. And then we'll keep reading. Oh, Gemma, you get to pick. Squats, curls, hammer curls, or push-ups. I hide it so there's no wheel spin. Well, too late. Wait, there's reading tonight? I know, right? I'm not going to do them right now, Gemma. I just need to put them on the list. So you get to tell me what it is I'll do later. What would you like me to do in a little bit? And thank you for the lurk. Or wait, no, that's not a lurk. You just said throwing shade. Oh. Rest is what I want you to do. Okay, fine. I'll ask you later. I will ask you later, because it has to get recorded. All right, but anyway, back to the story, shall we? Chapter 46. And by the way, don't forget to click on this link. Please, please, please check out Katie's author page. Check out her. If you're liking this story, you're going to love the rest of them. This one time at Bandcamp. Yes, Bandcamp. All right. Starts on page 313. Here we go. Oh, and I should mention also, this is the perspective of Sherlock now, instead of Irene Adler. I stuck a flute. Ooh. Better than a trumpet. Something weird just happened with Twitch. Is everyone still there? Can you hear me? Yep. Okay, good. Okay, that was weird. I'm not here. Okay, good. So just a side note, in like the stream manager view, for those of you that stream and you know what I'm talking about, I had my drop down, not as the chat, because I've got that right in front of me, but as the ad manager, so I could tell when ads were about to start. That page all of a sudden isn't there anymore. It's just gone. It's gone. What the heck? It's yes for no more ads. Oh wait, now it's back. What the hell? I don't know what. You know what? I'm just gonna pay attention to it later because Twitch is doing weird stuff right now. It says it's there, but it's not actually loading anything. Anyway. All right. Watson and I enjoyed a lazy morning, relaxing in bachelor comfort in the lounge at Baker Street. I was, as usual, ensconced in my morning papers. Watson glanced across to me as he lit his pipe. Holmes, were you aware Irene Adler has returned to Milan? Good for her, I say. I received a letter from Moon only yesterday. Miss Adler secured a position teaching as well as performing at La Scala. The Moons has helped her secure a villa close to the theatre where she lives with her son. I wasn't aware that Irene Adler had any children, were you? Christine, hi. Daily Book Bonk, okay. Oh, thank you. And to hydrate. Hydrate, don't dehydrate. Smooth perfection. Maybe not perfection, but it's pretty darn close. I've been here since you were doing the weights and squats. Good timing. I didn't know you had redeems too. Of course. And an online jigsaw puzzle, which you can join in if you want. That was my nickname in school. My goodness. And Gemma now has requested that I read the book as if I were pissed off. Okay. Let's see how this goes. What do you mean, huh? Huh, what? Here we go. I didn't do a lurk. Why did I say that? Oh, no, it's fine. Looking up from my newspaper, I glanced over at Watson, trying to maintain an expression of nonchalance. I shrugged in a desperate attempt to hide my shock. Apart from the child, does she live there alone? I casually asked, appearing ensconced in my newspaper. According to Moon, a friend, Ava, a talented student at La Scala, has recently moved in with Miss Adler. No doubt for companionship. But surely there must be some chap on the scene if she has a child. Okay, there you go. There's a bit of ticked off. It didn't. I just meant thanks for being, even if not chatting, we appreciate you. Yes, Mama House is good mod. Now we have to read as Arnold. Okay. A son, you say? How old is the boy? Welcome back, Stunt Mama's mama. It's good to see you. Why, he's 3 years old. I hesitated, struggling to keep my composure. And pray, what is the child's name? Watson glanced over at me, bemused by my sudden interest in matters which would not usually concern me. His name is Nicolo, although his mother calls him Nico. He has a neighbor and a State Farm. Watson chuckled. That is an unusual name, Holmes. It sounds familiar. Now, where have I heard it before? Tell me. Get to the chopper. Irish. Hello, sir. Good to see you. Thank you, Gemma, for the moan. Oh, gosh. I closed my eyes for a moment, taking a breath. Paganini, the celebrated virtuoso. You've heard me mention him on numerous occasions. Niccolo was his Christian name. Oh, yes, I remember now, of course. He played the violin. Miss Adler must have met the boy's father just after she returned from Fiesole. I keep saying it's a small world, Holmes. It is indeed, Watson. Watson stared at me curiously. Tell me, why the sudden interest in Irene Adler and her child? It's unlike you, Holmes, to delve into people's private lives. You refused to let me write about her adventures in my chronicles. However, you offered no reasonable explanation at the time. You know my methods by now, Watson. It's all about data for future reference. Nothing more, nothing less. I'm glad you had not forgotten Miss Adler was once... I paused for a moment. She was once a client. Miss Adler asked for anonymity after the case, and this was why she could never feature in your chronicles. We must respect her privacy. I hope I have made myself clear, Watson. Watson glanced across at me with a look of concern. You're looking a little peaky, Holmes. Are you sure you're not coming down with something? I picked up my Iverness and cap. I'm not ill, Watson. I need some fresh air. Come, let's go out for a walk. And that's the end of the chapter 46. So, Sherlock may have not received any letters, but now he knows he's a father. Can we please get a lovely shout out for Irish Miner, a friend and a member of the Platinum Squad as well?
Man, thank you for being here. We appreciate you.
Whee!
Parkour.
Oh. Parkour dead. Parkour! My goodness. I can't believe how much of this story we don't have left. So there's chapter 62. I think it's 62. There's some stuff at the end, like beyond the story, epilogues and whatnot, but it ends on page 345, which is in 30 pages. Good grief. Here's the plan, though, just so everyone understands what's going to happen. In order to give my brain a moment to shift gears towards the next book, we'll have one stream of no book reading. More than likely American Truck Simulator, just because it's fun and I like it. And then after that, we start the next book. That way my brain can kind of have a moment to disconnect before we jump into the next book. Otherwise, I'll be in the same state of mind for the next book when I need to not be. So hopefully that all made sense. But after we're done reading this book this evening, before I end, I will read to you what's on the back cover of Melissa's book. Very exciting. All right. Chapter 57. Also Sherlock Holmes. I rose early the following morning and took a cab to Victoria Station in order to book my ticket to Milano Central. I was desperate to get there, to find Neen and my son as soon as possible. Frustratingly, as it was the holiday season, the earliest passage I could secure was the day after next. I walked back to Baker Street, where I had breakfast alone. I was musing at the breakfast table when Mrs. Hudson entered the room to deliver the newspapers. I picked up the Times, scanning the gossip column, scribbling random notes with the pen Neen had presented to me. My eyes kept diverting to one particular advert. I sat up alertly in my chair, removing my pipe from my lips. I read the advert. Still a long way from your hill of Calvary. I would implore you to read my latest correspondence. There you will find data of the utmost importance. All will become clear. Yours, the stubborn one. I sat for a while, collapsed in my chair. The advert had left me in a state of profound agitation. Oh, clever. Very clever, Neen, I muttered, endeavoring to establish true concord between us. I sat for several minutes in deep contemplation. Eventually, I rose from my chair and opened my strongbox, tentatively removing the unopened envelopes from Neen and placing them on my knee. Then, reaching for the brass letter opener on the table beside me, I carefully opened the envelope. Envelopes, plural. I read a passage from Neen's first letter informing me of her pregnancy and the altercation with Mycroft, professing her deep, abiding love for me. The intensity of my feelings for you scares me sometimes, yet wherever I am, whatever I do, your presence never leaves me. People don't talk like that anymore. My eyes were continually drawn back to one particular sentence. The skin on my stomach flutters like a butterfly, each little tumbling motion an incredible miracle. I turned over the picture enclosed with Neen's second letter. It was a photograph of a newborn, my secret child. I studied it carefully. My son's magnetic eyes stared back at me. I reread Neen's letter once more. At the bottom of the page on the second letter, next to her signature, was a carbon impression of our son's footprint. His Christian name printed alongside it. A postscript from Neen went as follows. I want you to know that not a day goes by when I don't speak to our son of his father. He's like you, Sherlock, curious about everything. The things I've taught him, I learned them all from you. Then I remembered the words Neen had spoken to me of forgiveness, and I felt ashamed. I took a sharp intake of breath once again, taking in my son's Christian name, the name Neen had chosen for him. A single tear rolled down my cheek. And that concludes that little chapter. Now, I know I've said in previous chapters how Sherlock was never the kind of character I thought of that would have a lot of emotional connection. But in this story, he is portrayed as someone that is not just what are the right words here? Not just as someone that understands emotion, but someone that is deeply invested in emotion. Like he understands it almost like a Spock level, but instead of hiding it, he uses it. He understands it that well. Good stuff. All right. Chapter 58, also from Sherlock Holmes' perspective. I dined alone at Baker Street that evening, and had just finished packing my valise when Mrs. Hudson came in to collect the tray. Thank you, Mrs. Hudson. Dinner was delicious. You have quite surpassed yourself this evening. I gestured towards the armchair next to the fire. Would you please take a seat for a moment? There is a pressing matter that I wish to discuss with you. Mrs. Hudson stared at me in surprise, but did as I asked. She smoothed down her black cotton dress, pushing her gray hair under her bonnet, taking a seat across from me next to the fire. Let's have a drink, Mrs. Hudson. I rose briskly from my chair. I'll get it. Would a dry sherry be acceptable? Oh, that's very kind of you, Mr. Holmes. She smiled, accepting the glass of sherry. I sat down across from her, a glass of port in hand, and raised my glass. To your excellent health, Mrs. Hudson. Thank you, Mr. Holmes, and the same to you. She looked at me anxiously. Was there something in particular that you wanted to talk to me about? Yes, indeed, I nodded. It's rather a delicate matter. Mrs. Hudson shuffled on her feet. It was unlike me to invite her for drinks and clandestine conversation. I see, she said. Is it something you could discuss with Dr. Watson, perhaps? No, Mrs. Hudson. What I'm about to tell you, no one else can ever know, especially Watson. And this conversation can never leave this room. Do you understand? She nodded, taken aback. A little over 4 years ago, I embarked on a personal relationship with a young lady. She stared at me, a startled expression upon her face. Goodness me, I am shocked. You certainly kept that quiet. The liaison took place when I was in Florence. I pointed to the mantelpiece towards the photo of Irene Adler. This is the lady in question. Okay, I'm getting up now. Probably won't be back by the time you're off. I hope you have a good week. Thank you, Mama House Gaming. I hope you enjoy the rest of your time and get cracking on painting that office. Reach out anytime. I look forward to seeing the progress, too. One brush stroke at a time. Or roller, perhaps. Roller would be better. Mrs. Hudson's jaw fell open as she stared at the photograph on the mantelpiece. The picture she polished every morning. You were in a relationship with Irene Adler, the opera singer? She shook her head in disbelief. Surely it's not that difficult to comprehend. Oh, no, Mr. Holmes, it's not that. You've taken me completely by surprise, that's all. I've never known you to be involved with a young lady before, not in a romantic way. That's a fair comment, Mrs. Hudson. But, I can hardly believe it happened myself. It suffices to say that outside influences clouded her judgment. Otherwise, we would still be together. We subsequently wrote to each other, but unfortunately our correspondence was cruelly intercepted. That deception has only recently come to my attention. I shrugged. And now I'm at a loss of what to do. Oh, goodness, Mr. Holmes, such a tragic story. Why, you and Miss Adler are star-crossed lovers, just like Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. I smiled at her dryly. I wouldn't go quite that far. We all know how that story ended. But there's an additional complication. I recently discovered Irene Adler gave birth to a child. I removed the photo of my son from my desk drawer and handed it to her. This is my son, Nicolo. What do you think of him? I stared at her keenly, trying to gauge her reaction. Mrs. Hudson stared at the photo, a look of astonishment on her face. What a fine boy he is, Mr. Holmes. You are fortunate to have such a child. He looks like you, he does. He has your eyes. I smiled softly at the housekeeper. Yes, I believe he does. Thank you, Mrs. Hudson. Tell me, What would you suggest I do? I would appreciate a woman's perspective. You're the only one I can trust. Smiling at me, her cheeks flush with color. That's very kind of you to say, Mr. Holmes. I'm flattered that you feel able to confide in me. I don't believe that took too much effort on my part. She stared at me hard. Do you still love this woman? I paused for a moment. Yes, I said. I believe I do. Then you have answered your own question. It's evident to me that you love your son even if you have not yet met him. I can tell from the way you looked at him in that photograph. If you care for them as much as you say you do, then you have no choice. You have to fight for them, even if you face rejection. Otherwise, their loss will burn within you until the day you die. My husband and I became estranged before we had the chance to have children, but I know if we'd have, I would have done anything for them. I believe you're right. I nodded in agreement. You know, Irene Adler told me once it was possible to miss someone you've never met. I was skeptical at the time, but she was right, of course. She was right about everything. I have to find them. I need to make things right and be a father to my son. Although I'm unsure what kind of reception to expect. Neen has been let down by men for most of her life, and I made her a promise. And if Sherlock Holmes cannot keep his word, then what is left? I want to thank you for your advice, Mrs. Hudson, and for being my confidant. You are more than welcome, Mr. Holmes. And I promise you, I will never speak to a living soul of what you have just told me. I will take your secret to the grave. But what will you do now? I've already made plans to travel to Milan. I would have gone today, but the earliest passage I could secure was the day after tomorrow. But because I embark upon my journey, there is someone I need to speak to. Shall I bring you up a glass of milk and some biscuits? I beamed at her. That would be most agreeable. Thank you, Mrs. Hudson. And that ends chapter 58. And I don't know why I gave Mrs. Hudson more of a Scottish kind of esque accent. She's from London. She's a Londoner. She'll be talking like this, you know. But I don't know what people in London spoke like in the 1800s. So, anyway, what I gave was what came to mind at the time. For those of you that don't know, I don't read ahead in these books that I read on stream. The only thing I ever read before we crack open the book for the first time is the back and front cover. That is it. So everything I read, you're hearing it for the first time, and technically, so am I. So voices, emotion, speed, all of that. I just kind of have to figure it out as I go. I hear her as an 80s Valley girl. Oh, man. That's funny. Okay. My goodness. We're on page 321. It hurts my heart. Okay. Chapter 59 is again from Sherlock Holmes' perspective. Here we go. The following day before noon, I arrived in a hansom at the Diogenes Club in Pall Mall. Eternal Grey, what's up? Let's get you a shout out. Do you not have any clips? Beeve. What's up, sir? -3 right now? Ew. Why are the shoutouts not working? Oh, just kidding. Wow, that was so delayed.
Oh,
I
no.
can't get that. I can't get that. No.
What the?
And
What
Ash is
the-
here too. Oh my
Am I
gosh.
hacking?
What?
The hell?
What?
Am
the?
I
Were you
hacking?
writing?
The stream stuff is so badly delayed. My goodness.
Ban them. Ban them. Okay. Ban them. Alright, so once again, I'm stuck. Hey, Captain, can you do the...
He's stuck. He needs Captain's help. Oh, Captain, my Captain.
Nosity in here with us sometime. Oh my god. What?
Was that? Sheesh. It's great to see you all. We've been enjoying this story. It's so close to ending, too. It's sad. It's a good sad, but it's still sad. We're just about to start chapter 59, so welcome in. The puzzle, half-ish way done, give or take. If you want to hop in on that, you're more than welcome. Zarias is in there somewhere, at least he was. Plodding along, clicking pieces. All right, page 321 and 321, go. I jumped out of the cab and knocked on the door with my cane. The chief steward, John Rochford, silently escorted me into the inner sanctum of the stranger's room to await my brother. I paced up and down like a caged animal until my brother eventually entered the room. It's poopy outside. Yeah, it's kind of poopy here too. Mycroft nodded to me, taking a seat in a comfortable-looking leather armchair. The steward came in with a tray containing 2 glasses of port, which he placed on the table before leaving the room, quietly closing the door behind him. Mycroft handed one of the glasses to me, which I reluctantly accepted. Please take a seat, Sherlock. I prefer to stand if it's all the same to you, Mycroft. Well, Sherlock, you appear a little paler than usual. I can see that you've lost a little weight since our last encounter. 5 pounds, I would fancy. 4. You're troubled by insomnia, and I see you intend to travel abroad quite soon. I'm in no mood for banter today, Mycroft, although you are, of course, quite correct on all 3 accounts. Insomnia has troubled me for some time, and of course, we both know the reason for that. You are solely responsible for the fact that I've never seen my son. You have kept him from me, my own flesh and blood. If I did not know you better, I would suspect you were jealous that I have a child and have found someone to share my life with. You have no idea how difficult that was. By God, Mycroft, our mother would have been ashamed of you. The fact that you're capable of casting out her grandson, your nephew. Have you any idea how much harm you have caused? The lives you have affected? Mycroft shook his head. Blame me, why don't you? Oh, I do blame you, Mycroft. Come, Sherlock, enough of the dramatics. You need to think about this logically. What use would a woman and child be to you? Why, there would be a hindrance to what you were born to do. You can rant all you like, but you know deep down that I speak the truth. People like us don't have normal relationships. If our mother had the mentality that neither of us would have been born, She found love, managed to combine the two with considerable aplomb, and let's face facts, her genius was far superior to ours. Yes, you're right. I'll give you that. Mycroft nodded in agreement. But then our mother was a remarkable woman. You must have known that you couldn't hold on to a prize like Irene Adler. You would not be the first man to have his judgment melted by the face of a pretty woman. I flashed my brother a contemptuous look. If you think I was only interested in Irene Adler because of the way she looked, then you don't know me at all. Neen was beautiful, all right, but she was so much more than that to me. She's also the mother of my child. Mycroft laughed softly. Sherlock, the boy is hardly running barefoot through the streets of London with the Baker Street irregulars. Do you not think it's best to leave well enough alone? Can you really see yourself living your life through the prism of fatherhood? I think not, my dear brother. I understand Miss Adler is an exceptional mother, and as for the boy, well, he is remarkable. As smart as a whip by all accounts. If you're concerned because the child is illegitimate, then remove such concerns from your mind. We are living in the age of transition. The spirit of the world is changing. Your son is not the first, and he will not be the last child to be born out of wedlock. It certainly didn't do William the Conqueror any harm. Mycroft drew on his cigarette. I glared at my brother, barely suppressing the rage that tensed my jaw. You show not one modicum of respect, Mycroft. With your condescending attitude, you dared to have Irene Adler monitored. Why, it's outrageous. I'm not completely heartless, Sherlock. I wrote to Irene Adler on several occasions offering financial support, and she returned my letters and checks. You don't know me as well as you might think. Your behavior in this matter has been utterly contemptible, Mycroft. Please don't judge me by your inadequacies. Be careful what you wish for, Sherlock. There's always a price to pay for happiness, which is inevitably short-lived. However, I must say that I'm surprised that you intend to pursue this woman and her child. A lot of dirty water will have flowed under the old bridge. A great deal will have happened after all this time. Mycroft stared at me curiously. You don't get it, do you? He scoffed. You cannot handle the fact Irene Adler rejected you. In your mind's eye, loyalty has a breaking point, and you refuse to see the facts for what they are. Irene Adler did not forsake you. She left Veersel to protect you and the child. Her sacrifice was the highest mark of love. My point is, my dear Sherlock, the story cannot always be about you. Yes, she felt compelled to leave me, but only under duress from you, Mycroft. I merely pointed out the risks. The decision was entirely her own, I can assure you. Mycroft raised his glass. A toast, Sherlock. To water under the bridge. Staring at my brother, I raised my glass as he continued his narrative. I begrudgingly admit that your ex-fiancée is an exceptional woman. I can see why you were attracted to her. And to give credit where it's due, she has never revealed the identity of her son's father to the press, despite being under considerable pressure to do so. I glared at my brother with contempt. Neen would never reveal anything to the press. That's the last thing she would do. She despises them. I loved her, and I'm not ashamed to say it. She will remain forever in my memory as the most remarkable of women. Mycroft shook his head, a pained expression on his face. The best thing you can do for this woman and her child is to leave them be, where they will be safe. You must not put the child at risk. Do you understand me, Sherlock? The boy has never been in danger, and I saw to that. Don't go making waves, brother. I stared at Mycroft in disbelief. You are no brother of mine, Mycroft. I can never forgive you for this. Why, I can hardly bear to look at you. If it not for the fact that we are unfortunately related, I would thrash you to within an inch of your life. I walked over to the door and then turned back to confront my brother. Oh, by the way, Mycroft, you are not nearly quite as clever as you might imagine. I smiled at him sardonically. Mycroft arched an eyebrow, staring at me suspiciously. The glass of port he had been holding fell from his hands onto the marble floor, shattering into pieces. Mycroft recoiled in his seat, appearing just as horrified by the noise of the broken glass as my narrative. Any noise was indeed a grave offense at the Diogenes Club, with its strict rules and emphasis on exclusivity. No talking was allowed under any circumstances outside the strangers' room. There would be grave repercussions if the incident came to the committee's attention. Mycroft would have a lot of explaining to do. I really never understood that. A special room that you go sit in, but you're not allowed to talk. And if you do, by God, you're gonna get it. I mean, we used to call those libraries. Anyway. Before Mycroft had a chance to respond, I stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind me. I walked down the corridor, past the sign demanding silence at all times, brandished my cane, and banged it along the wall as I walked out of the building. The following morning, I received a wire from my brother notifying me of Irene Adler's address in Milan, imploring me not to put his nephew at risk. If you insist on pursuing this woman, then there may be a solution to keep everyone safe. However, you're not going to like it. If it's going to work, we need to act quickly. My dear brother, you must speak to me before you travel to Milan and do something that you may well regret. Too little too late, Mycroft, I muttered, shaking my head in disbelief. I scribbled down Irene's address, throwing the telegram into the bin. And that is the end of chapter 59. Well done. My goodness. He's gonna go get her. He's gonna kiss the girl. Oh. The tea tonight, for some reason, is just hitting on another level. And I am here for it. So good. Okay. I said I would read for a little longer tonight, because normally I would say, okay, thanks for being here. We're going to raid and find someone and blah, blah, blah. But with so much delay, I figured, why not? You know? Let's just keep going. If anyone has any objections, say something. No objections? Wonderful. And then there's that. Stepmama's mama wants to rock on with drinks in both hands, double fisting.
More! More!
Got it? More. Chapter 60. Irene Adler. The scene was La Scala on Friday morning, the 1st of July. Although it was the day of Eva Esperato's debut performance, the notices are all out that there would be a special guest appearance by yours truly, the acclaimed contralto Irene Adler. There was a knock on my dressing room door. Robert Moon appeared in the doorway. "I'm sorry to bother you, Neen, but the press is here asking for an interview." "Who is it this time, Robert?" "It's, Mato Madini. Should I send him away?" I shook my head. "It's all right, Robert. Can you give me a couple of minutes and then send him in, please?" Robert left the room, closing the door behind him. I composed myself. I rarely granted interviews with reporters. As far as I was concerned, they were all parasites. And yet a part of me hoped Holmes might read the article. A few minutes later, there came a knock at the door. "Come in." Matteo Madini entered the room. He was a tall, pale-faced man in a dark coat, in his late 40s, with
I'm
piercing...
stronger. I'm smarter. I'm better. I am better.
Okay, there's no need to brag about it. No one likes a bragger. You can be smarter, stronger, better. It's fine. Late 40s with piercing brown eyes. His dark brown hair was going a little gray around the temples. I was aware Madini always had a little tenderness for me, feelings I never reciprocated. I shook hands with Madini, inviting him to take a seat. Glancing at me nervously, he placed a bouquet on the table. I acknowledged the gesture with a silent nod. "Miss Adler, first of all, I would like to thank you for granting me this interview. It will be a short one, Mr. Madini. I rarely speak to the press, as you are aware." "I am. Everyone is looking forward to your appearance this evening. How do you feel about performing once again in this legendary theater?" "It's my great pleasure, Signor Madini. La Scala is by far my favorite opera house. However, I'm also looking forward to the debut of my protege, Miss Eva. She's the one you really should be interviewing." "Yes, we understand that you have been instrumental in the nurturing of that talent." "I have known Eva since she started, but it's the maestros at La Scala who are responsible for her remarkable progress. She has much to thank them for." "May I ask about your future plans?" "Well, I intend to stay in Milan and teach at the theater school. I have my charity work to keep me busy, and I hope to make more appearances on stage." "Well, if that's all, Signor Madini, I must be getting on." I gestured towards the door. "Oh, please be sure to thank your editor for the flowers." "Oh, they are not from my newspaper. The flowers are from me, Miss Ad. A token of my ardent admiration. I wonder if you would allow me to the honor of taking you to dinner one evening. I believe we have much in common." "Oh, I do hope not." Sorry, that's funny. I replied, shaking my head. "I'm sorry, but I have a very tight schedule and have plans to meet with friends this evening. Other than that, I'm afraid I don't have time to go to dinner with you. Or anyone else, for that matter." Madini glared at me, clearly rattled by my reply, his cheeks flushed with anger. "Well, yes, I suppose you are busy with your son. What did you say his name was again?" "I didn't." Reporters. Madini stared at me. His dark eyes narrowed. You never divulged the identity of your child's father. Rumors abounded, of course. There has been a great deal of concentration amongst our readers. Would you now like to take this opportunity to reveal who he is? I am simply allowing you to put forward your side of the story. Until then, as far as our readers are concerned, your boy will merely be the natural child of an opera singer. Assuming, of course, you know who the father is. Ooh. That's a jerk move. I glared at him, my cheeks pink with rage. You have all the morals of a backstreet journalist, Medini. Life is far too short for long-term grudges, but I am prepared to make an exception in your case. As for my son, he is not fodder for your unscrupulous editor. I'm sure you must have more pressing things to deal with than second-guessing the lineage of an innocent child. The identity of my son's father is none of your damn business, and I would like you to get the hell out of my dressing room. Should you dare to print even one derogatory word about my son or insult him in any way, you and your editor will be dealing with my lawyer. Your perfidious little man. I glared at Medini defiantly, my eyes flashing with anger. Robert Moon suddenly appeared in the doorway, his brow furrowed. Is this man disturbing you, Neen? He looked at me anxiously. Thank you, Robert, I nodded. Signor Medini was just leaving. Would you mind showing him out? Robert accompanied Medini out of the dressing room. Medini paused for a moment as he edged towards the door. Perhaps another time, Miss Adler. I won't give up, you know. I intend to make you mine one day, and I'm prepared to wait. But, in the meantime, I sincerely apologize if I have offended you in any way. I wouldn't want you to think any less of me. I don't think she does, because there's nowhere else to go. I stared at him in disbelief. I doubt that's possible, Medini, and you can stop waiting for me. I wouldn't consider marrying you even if you were the last man on earth. Medini gave me a defiant nod. Well, I shall take that as a maybe. I like a challenge. God, this guy's a piece of work. He laughed nervously before both men left the room, closing the door behind them. I picked up the flowers and threw them into the bin. Sighing deeply, I wished Sherlock was with me, the only man apart from my father who'd ever been capable of calming, protecting, and reassuring me. And that ends chapter 60. And we have an ad that's about to start. So I'm going to run that real quick, and then we'll be back. Of course, some of you won't know that there is an ad. You have no idea. Nothing at all. And you know what? Considering I don't have to get up for work tomorrow, I don't have to take the kid to school, let's just finish the book tonight. We're so close to the end, and I don't want to leave it just like a few pages left, and then we have to wait. I told you to run the ad. Oh, jeez. Whoops, couldn't start an ad at this time. Try again later. I don't know what Twitch did to upgrade their stuff, but my goodness. We are so close. And Katie, if you do not have to stay up. You are a trooper as it is, staying up as late as you are to hear your book, which I am so flattered that you've done that. I really am. But please, I don't expect you to, well, I don't expect anything, but I really don't expect you to stay up even later. Of course, you are a grown woman. You may do as you please. delicious. Oh, now it's telling me there's an ad break? I am so confused. Twitch be like really weird tonight. No sense at all. You can't tell me what to do. I can tell you whether you choose to go with it or not is up to you. I can tell you whatever I want. I could tell you that the grass is actually blue and the sky is green. Doesn't mean you have to believe me. I'm just trying to get the ads manager thing to show up correctly so I can keep an eye on it. I don't know what's going on. It's weird. It's so weird. I would tell you to prove it. Yeah, just I'll be right back. I'm just going to create a quick, not AI image at all. And then, there it is. Proof. Hey, bot, I need you to create an outside picture with lots of grass and clear skies, but make the grass blue and the sky green. Thanks. All right, the ad is almost over. Excuse me. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, for our continued book coverage this evening. Continuing on with chapter 61 from Irene Adler's perspective on page 330. Later that evening, my dressing room was alive with chatter and laughter. I wore a low-cut gold lame evening gown with a sweeping train. My hair was dressed in an arrangement of braids and curls. Sophia said I looked every inch the diva. She was putting the finishing touches on my makeup when there was a knock at the door. Robert stood in the door with a large bouquet of mixed blooms and a small box wrapped in gold paper with a single red rose. He glanced around the dressing room, a bemused smile on his face, taking in the numerous bouquets and baskets of flowers which already adorned the room. Well, someone's popular, he laughed. They just keep on coming, said Sophia. Well, it is the birthday of an extraordinary diva, said Robert. He said his goodbyes, kissing us each on the cheek before closing the door behind him. I opened the card nestling in the flowers to discover they were from Abe. How lovely. He's such a sweet man. I stared at the little box and the single red rose with a brief note attached. I frowned. There was no signature, just a quote from Rumi. Lovers don't finally meet somewhere, they're in each other all along. I unwrapped the gold paper, then took a sharp intake of breath. Underneath lay a ring box. I slowly opened it to reveal a beautiful, antique, 18-karat gold wedding ring. Sophia giggled. Well, Neen, I'll say this for your friend, he is very persistent. This is not funny, Sophia. What on earth am I going to say to him when we go to dinner? Thank God you're all coming. I am clearly in need of moral support. Sophia stared at the ring. Are you sure it's from Abe? Could it not be from one of your other ardent admirers, Medini, perhaps? You're hilarious, Sophia. Well, whoever it is will be getting it back. Although I must admit it's a beautiful piece. Almost worth getting married for if I was inclined to do so. I'll put it here in my jewelry case until the sender reveals himself. Dear God, please don't let it be Medini. Backstage in the main theater, I peeped through the curtain to observe Ludo, Violetta, and Violetta's brother-in-law sitting together in a private box. Then, to the left of the stage, Abe and Medini took their seats in the stalls. The evening was about to get underway. Arturo, now the principal conductor at La Scala, took up his position in the orchestra pit. I walked out onto the stage to rapturous applause. Arturo picked up his baton, and the orchestra played. Happy Birthday. The audience sang along, and I laughed with delight. Glancing over to the front stalls, I could see Abe smiling as he gazed at me adoringly. I returned his smile, then glanced over to the press box. My not-so-secret admirer, Medini, smirked back at me. All these people just laying wake at her feet. Oh, must be awful. I turned away to address the captive audience. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. It's wonderful to be back with you once again in this magnificent theater. I glanced upwards, winking at Lagonia. I realize my visits to La Scala have been sporadic over the years, but I hope to stay a little longer this time, if you will have me. My friend, Mr. Toscanini, has invited me to come sing for you this evening. On more than one occasion, he has remarked how I am an admired interpreter of Wagnerian roles, and has asked why I seldom perform Wagner. The audience laughed. I glanced over to Arturo in the orchestra pit and shrugged, looking at him questioningly. Arturo blew a kiss, shouting back, "Venir, Irene!" The audience whooped with delight. I once again addressed the audience. Well, ladies and gentlemen, who am I to defy the great man, my good friend Arturo Toscanini, now principal conductor at La Scala? Arturo took a bow, flashing me an enigmatic smile, as I rejoined my narrative. My friend is right, of course. When one thinks of Richard Wagner, it's not difficult to appreciate the passion, the soaring melodies, and the sheer power of his music. But don't worry, ladies and gentlemen. I will not be performing all the Wagner roles this evening, only one of them. I wish to dedicate this next piece to an extraordinary man who is sadly no longer in my life. Still, wherever he is right now, I would like him to know that he will always have my heart. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Richard Wagner's Mignon. I hope you enjoy it. If you expect me to start singing opera style, just know that that is not going to happen. Jean-Claude began to play as I sang to a hushed audience. The performance ended and the audience rose to their feet, applauding. Do it? Shame? I only just got my voice back, guys, okay? Let's take it one step at a time. I turned to face Jean-Claude. Thank you. I gestured to the audience, encouraging them to show their appreciation. Jean-Claude stood from the piano to take a bow. The audience applauded ecstatically. I bowed to them, waiting patiently for the applause to die down, not lie down. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. The Scala is exceptionally proud to introduce you this evening our new principal soprano on her professional debut. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome onto the stage a very dear friend of mine, the sublimely talented Miss Ava. Ava entered the stage in a stunning sleeveless petrol blue tulle lace gown. She walked over to me and presented me with a beautiful bouquet of long-stemmed roses. I glanced at the flowers and card and quickly read the short message. Things that never made sense before have now become evident. I looked at Ava. They are beautiful, Ava. My favorite flowers. Ava glanced upwards and my eyes followed her gaze, looking up into the box to Ava's family. Violetta, Ludo, and Violetta's brother-in-law Luca, a tall, grey-haired man, distinguished-looking gentleman, dressed in a black bowler hat and suit. His eyes were concealed behind grey-tinted glasses, set in gold frames. I stared at him. I'd never met Luca Sapori before, but there was something vaguely familiar about him. He removed his glasses for a moment, wiping his eyes with a handkerchief before he glanced down, staring at me. A faint smile appeared on his face. I would recognize those steel-gray eyes anywhere. I was shocked to find Sherlock Holmes looking at me. I closed my eyes for a moment, trying to take it all in. Then, opening my lids slowly, my focus moved around the box. Violetta and Ludo smiled down at me. Looking to my right, I gasped. Sherlock Holmes was still there, looking at me. His eyes bore into mine for several long seconds. Then suddenly, as though a sixth sense of déjà vu, my mind was immediately transported back to Fia Soul. And then there's a block of text here, or actually a couple of pages of text here. And there we were on the day of the christening in our carriage approaching the church. Beautiful stained glass windows with a great spire reaching to the heavens came into view as the carriage rolled to a stop and Holmes helped me out of the brougham. Shall we light a candle before or after the photographs? I asked. I thought we could do the marrying thing, said he. My God, Sherlock, you're serious, aren't you? Baptisms obviously bring out the romantic in you. I have never been more serious. Why the change of heart? You told me you would never marry. Because when I saw you after our altercation with Moriarty, I had never felt such pain. And I knew then that I would be a fool to allow even one glorious moment of being with you to slip through my fingers. I want you for my wife if you will have me. Although I know I will most likely make a terrible husband, and if I were you, I'd be heading for the hills right now. I laughed. You are not selling this terribly well, Mr. Holmes. But why this church? Do you even believe in God? I believe in us, he said. I have arranged a special license. We only need to take the next definitive step and turn up. Are you completely sure I'm going to be enough for you? You are everything I could ever want. I cannot believe this is happening. What about witnesses? Mr. and Mrs. Espirito have kindly agreed to be our witnesses. What about a ring? You will forgive me if I don't go down on one knee. I fear I may never get up again. My infection was to buy a wedding ring, but then I thought we could make use of Mary Ann's, only until we return to England, where I intend to replace it with my late mother's. If that is acceptable, of course. In the meantime, I have bought you this. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a box, opening the lid to reveal a beautiful 6-carat vintage Celtic knot diamond and sapphire engagement ring and a yellow and white band. He slipped it onto my finger. It was a perfect fit. My God, it's beautiful, I gasped. You have thought of everything. Yes, indeed I have. But was there something you wanted to tell me? He stared at me curiously. I'm so sorry, I spluttered. I could feel my face grow warm. There was something I had been meaning to discuss with you. I stared at Holmes. He was obviously aware I was keeping something from him. My mounting apprehension made my head spin. I wasn't ready to tell Holmes about the child, not yet. I was entirely thrown off guard by what he said next. It's all right, Neen. I know that something terrible happened to you back in Catskills. He paused for a moment. You know you can confide in me about anything. We don't have to talk about it now if you don't want to, although I can hazard a guess as to what transpired. Sherlock, you never guess, I said as tears filled my eyes. You knew all along, didn't you? Yes, he nodded, ever since our conversation at the barn. When you spoke to me of your childhood, the childhood you are still locked inside, still traumatized by its fears. I have never dared to speak of it to a living soul. My aunt, Susanna, found us. I took a deep breath. I remember he was very drunk. When I refused to do what he wanted, he put a knife to my throat. I said no, and he didn't listen. I was 15. I paused for a moment. He intended to violate me. What happened? Asked Holmes, his face a mask of anger and concern. Who did this to you? Was it your cousin Beau? He quizzed. Yes, it was Beau. I swallowed hard. He took me completely by surprise. I never thought for a moment he was interested in me, not in that way. It was common knowledge he had a penchant for men. My aunt put a rifle to his head. She threatened to shoot him if he ever came near me again. We never spoke of it after that. It was as if it never happened. My aunt said it was the drink that made him do it, and that no one would believe me if I told anyone. It would just be the words of a headstrong, willful young girl against Beau, a straight-A student, a pillar of the community. I shook my head. Then my Aunt Aline intervened, and it was she who persuaded my father to send me away. So I was packed off to boarding school shortly after. I shall never forget that night. It was my 15th birthday. I scoffed, but there was nothing to celebrate. I lost more than my childhood that day. I looked Holmes straight in the eye. After everything, I didn't expect to feel happy again. But you changed that. So if you are having second thoughts about marrying me, I will understand. My eyes were streaming tears. Nothing is going to stop me from marrying you. I love you. You must know that. Holmes gazed into my eyes. When you are ready, I swear to God I will find a way to punish him. Revenge is always a dish best served cold. He paused for a moment, as though deep in thought, then took my hand in his. Abuse comes in all shapes and forms. Those who experience it firsthand often perceive it in others. But I promise you this. You no longer walk that path alone. We will face your demons together. He smiled softly, offering me his arm. Are you ready? He asked, smiling down at me. I wiped a tear from my eye. I am as ready as I'll ever be, Mr. Holmes. You have just reminded me why I love you. Give me time and I will tell you everything. No more secrets, I promise. That can keep for now, said Holmes. It will all keep for now. He gestured towards the church. You and I have a wedding to attend, not to mention a christening. Shall we? I felt humbled by his narrative. I knew his words were heartfelt, just in the same way I was sure he would never speak of it again. I took his arm as we walked over to the church. Violetta appeared in the vestry doorway. She held a bouquet of wild meadow flowers and offered me a reassuring smile as she handed them to me. We entered the church and walked towards the chapel. The clergyman and Ludo were there waiting for us. And that's the end of the blast from the past, if you will. The memory that came to her in that moment. So now we continue present. As clear as day, standing at the altar, I could remember the priest reciting the grave importance of the vows we were about to make. Looking up at the box in La Scala, I walked towards the wings of the theater. Instinctively, I clutched the muff chain around my neck, the chain that held my engagement ring. My eyes were fixed on Holmes. 4 years ago, we stood in front of an altar together. There are a few moments in life that are precious and profoundly memorable. That was one of them. My eyes had been bright with wonder on what would forever remain the most joyous days of my life. I would have given anything to be back on that beautiful, sunny day in Fiesole, my hand in his. That had genuinely been a shared mission, a search for what we both needed and finally found. Although we were no longer together, my heart would always belong to him. The beautiful secret that few people knew. The mystery the rest of the world would never discover, that he was my beloved husband, Sherlock Holmes. Looking up once again into the box, I recalled a line from Jane Eyre. Reader, I married him. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. All right, not much to go. Oh, it's that bitter, frickin' sweet moment. Chapter 62, Irene Adler. I returned to the dressing room in a state of wild agitation. I had barely finished changing when I noticed a shadow in the doorway, a tall, imposing presence, and then Sherlock Holmes was standing before me. "Hello, Neen," he said. "It's good to see you again. You look well." "You look older," I replied, struggling to keep my composure. "I take it you are here to see your son?" "I'm here to see you both." Holmes fixed me with his penetrating eyes. "Where are you staying?" "I am booked at the Grand. I was hoping we could go there for dinner to talk." I shook my head. "I'm sorry, Sherlock, but I already have plans for this evening. My friends have organized a birthday dinner. I shall send a carriage tomorrow morning. You can come to the villa and spend the day with Nico. He would like that. He takes a nap in the afternoon. We can talk then." Bravo. You did it. Well done. Night drive in the Alps under the Milky Way. Love it. Congrats. Well deserved. Take a break. Put your feet up. He nodded. My son actually did most of it. Well, rock on. "Yes, of course. I shall look forward to it. I hope you enjoy your birthday celebrations with your gentleman friend. I couldn't help but notice the way he looked at you in the audience." I shook my head in disbelief. "My gentleman friend, as you call him, is exactly that. His name is Abe Burston, the doctor who was instrumental in ensuring our son was safely delivered into the world. If it were not for him, Nico might not even be here. I'm sorry, said Holmes. Forgive me. I had no right to say that. I cannot even imagine what your life must have been like these past few years. Difficult. I forced a smile. Did you hate me when I left you? Hate you? By God, Neen, I could never hate you. I know what Mycroft did was unforgivable, but I promise you this. If you come back to me, I will never allow anything to come between us again. I shook my head. I will never return to London with you. You know how I feel about that place. And Mycroft was right. That would not be safe for any of us. I will always care for you, Sherlock, but I am no longer that vulnerable woman who was hopelessly besotted with you in Fiesole. When I was forced to leave, I felt as if I'd fallen into a black hole from which I would never escape. But I did. I had to fight hard to rebuild my life. Raising our son while juggling my career, teaching, setting up 2 charities. I did those things independently. I've become a strong woman, and I choose to stay here in Milan. There are people here, children who depend on me, and I need to be surrounded by my friends in a place where Nico and I can feel safe and be happy. He nodded. Yes, you're right, of course. None of us would be safe in the underworld if the underworld discovered Sherlock Holmes and Irene Adler were together. But there is another way. Mycroft suggested I take on Luca Sapori's identity. I would, of course, have to return to London, but I would come and see you as often as possible. I could buy us a second home in England in the countryside, or wherever you wish. However, for this to work, first we would have to be married and become known as Mr. and Mrs. Sapori. I stared at him incredulously. Ah, yet another fake marriage, I scoffed. And one orchestrated by your brother, even better. I shook my head. No, Sherlock, I'm not prepared to do that. You ask too much. That would be too difficult. I'm sorry, said Holmes. I was being selfish. I don't know what I was thinking. He sighed deeply. In that case, the only logical thing to do is to divorce. That way you'll be free to be with someone who can give you what you deserve. Give you their undivided attention. I'll arrange everything when I get back to London. I don't want you to worry. My lawyer is very discreet. If you have any questions, then we can discuss them tomorrow. You need to go. Your friends will be wondering where you are. He reached into his pocket. I need to return this to you. He placed my brooch from La Scala into the palm of my hand. I shuddered as his signet ring brushed my fingers, sending shockwaves throughout my body. I felt so choked I could hardly speak. There is one more thing, he said. Why would he say, you need to go, and then be like, oh, wait, hold on, oh, and wait, hold on again? Oh, men. When you see your doctor friend, please shake his hand for me. I kissed him lightly on the cheek, expecting him to put his arms around me, but he didn't respond. I left the room and made my way to the ristorante, tears flooding my face. The ristorante was full. My friends were all waiting for me by the time I arrived. The atmosphere and the food were all marvelous, but my mind was in turmoil. I couldn't stop thinking of Holmes. Even though we were no longer together, the thought of us getting a divorce made me feel physically sick. Abe did his best to engage in polite conversation, but he could sense I was distracted. He was such a lovely man, but he was never going to make my heart sing. I knew that my life would be so much easier if I could feel for him a fraction of what I felt for Sherlock. I glanced across the table at Sophia and Robert laughing and joking together, They had recently announced Sophia was expecting their second child, and she looked radiant. Something about the way she and Robert looked at each other cast no doubt in my mind that they were indeed a couple in love. I recognized that look. I ached to experience it again. After we finished the meal, I made my excuses and retired for the evening. I was getting into my cab when I felt a hand on my arm. I turned round to discover Violetta smiling at me, a puzzled expression on her face. "I'm sorry, Nin, but I couldn't ask you in the restaurante while you were with Abe. Have you spoken to Sherlock?" I nodded. "Yes," I said. "I have spoken to him. We've arranged to meet up tomorrow to discuss our divorce." Violetta shook her head. "If you want him, then you have to fight for him. He has not come all this way to ask you for a divorce." "No, that's true," I agreed. But what he suggested as an alternative was too ridiculous for words, and I couldn't agree to it. So we are where we are. I think it's probably for the best. I will ensure that Sherlock gets regular access to Nico, so at least something good will have come out of this. My son will be able to see his father, and hopefully Sherlock and I can remain friends. "I don't believe for a second that that's what either of you wants," said Violetta. "That man loves you inside and out, although it's unlikely he will ever tell you that." Violetta took my hand in hers. "Nin, promise me you'll talk to him before you close the door on everything, and make a decision you'll most likely regret for the rest of your life. You need to follow your heart. But if you do decide to reunite with him, then promise me one thing." "And what is that?" I stared at her curiously. "Embrace his originality and eccentricity. Do not try to mold him into something he isn't, because he will try to, if you ask, and he will fail. If you truly love him, then you must accept him as he is. The man you fell in love with, flaws and all. Otherwise, it will drive a wedge between the two of you, and you will both end up unhappy." I hugged Violetta, kissed her on the cheek. "All right," I said. "Wish me luck for tomorrow." When I arrived at the villa, I sat in the cab for a while, reflecting on my conversation with Violetta and what I would say to Holmes in the morning. Finally realizing that Violetta was right and I couldn't wait that long, I asked the puzzled cab driver to turn around and take me to the Grand Hotel. I found Holmes alone in the hotel restaurant, nursing a brandy. He looked up at me, a strange expression on his face. I took a seat across from him. "Sherlock," I said, "I know we have much to discuss tomorrow, but what I'm about to say cannot wait." I stared deeply into his eyes. "I need you to know that I was never unfaithful to you. My father told you a lie. He was misguidedly trying to protect me. What about you? Have you found someone else?" I asked, reluctantly, conceding that I still loved this man who was irreplaceable in my life with a passion that took my breath away. He started to laugh, shaking his head. "I have hardly been beating them off with a stick. Obviously your father was lying. He could barely look me in the eye. Although he made it perfectly clear I was no longer welcome in your life, he said it would be unsafe to pursue our relationship, and that if I truly loved you, I should let you go. I could say or do nothing to convince him otherwise, because he was right, of course. If I had known of our child, I would never have left." Holmes paused for a moment. Then he put his hand on mine, and I knew that I wanted to spend the rest of my life with him. Yes, he could at times be insensitive, abrasive, and arrogant, but underneath that blunt and often breathtakingly rude exterior lay a man with a good heart, capable of extreme acts of kindness, who I knew loved me more than anything in the world. Even though we could never be fully together, above everything else, he was still my husband, and I was determined to be with him till death do us part. I don't want a divorce, I spluttered. Then what do you want? He looked at me searchingly. I want you to kiss me. He stared at me oddly, a flicker of amusement on his face. What, in front of everybody? Come to my room, I can kiss you there. Glancing across the restaurant, I laughed. There were only 4 other people there, an elderly couple sitting at a table across from us, a waiter and the bartender. I smiled at Holmes. You have no idea how much I want to, but I have no intention of laying with you. At least not until we are married. What on earth do you mean? We are married. I took his hand. I must have taken leave of my senses, and Sophia is unlikely to speak to me ever again, but if this is going to work, then we have to do it my way. Absolutely. Whatever you want. I can't lose you again. You need to tell me about Luca Sapori. I hope for your sake he knows how to propose to a lady and isn't too prickly about personal boundaries. Although I have to say, I love the new look. I removed my engagement ring from the chain around my neck and placed it on the table next to Holmes. He stared at it for a moment before picking it up. He stood up and smiled at me. Don't go anywhere. I need a moment. Holmes walked over to the bartender. Then, within minutes, he knelt down in front of me with his left knee on the ground and his right knee up. Then, taking my hand in his, he proposed to me in Italian, which I am now about to butcher. Ti amo, voglio sposarmi. What? Sposarmi. Yeah, something like that. Accetto la tua proposta, I exclaimed in a bubble of pure joy and happiness. I think that means yes. And then he kissed me, and it was the most sensational kiss, raising an eyebrow and a chuckle from the elderly couple in the corner. I do have one condition, I whispered. I'm not going to obey. I didn't think for one moment that you would. He laughed. I will respect, though, I said, staring into his eyes. I promise you I will always do that. And I don't want you to change, not for me or anyone. Not ever. Ah, said Holmes with a twinkle in his eyes. Does this mean I get to treat you with the same lofty disdain as everyone else? Don't push your luck, I said, before we both burst into a peal of laughter. The bartender deftly arrived with a bottle of vintage champagne and 2 glasses. I believe congratulations are in order. He beamed at us. Taking Holmes's hand in mine, I realized that loving him would be easy. But to be with him, to make that commitment under such trying circumstances, would take courage, and that was a choice I would have to make every day for the rest of our lives. Patience and understanding would be required, but most of all, trust and unconditional love, the only kind that truly matters. I didn't know then, what the future would hold, but I was sure of 3 things. Holmes and I would never again allow distance to dim our relationship. I would never be bored, and when life became problematic, my friends would be there for me, helping me through whatever adventures were to come. There would be many, of that I was certain. Holmes squeezed my hand. I couldn't be sure if you still wanted me, he said, speaking softly, almost a whisper. Your body language gave it away. I knew then that you would come back to me. Because despite telling yourself this is a ludicrous idea, not only do you find the thought of living this ambiguous life an intriguing, daunting prospect, I can see that it also excites and fascinates you. Like me, you find yourself unable to think of anything else. Come hell or high water, we will be together. He motioned to the bartender. Can you please charge the champagne to my room? The name is Luca Sapori. Please, allow me to introduce you to my fiancée, Miss Irene Adler. And that, by its many counts, is the end of the story. My gosh, what a fantastic book. Amazing story. Just like in the beginning, though, we had basically a, how do we say, it's a first-hand account. So there is from Charlotte Sapori, and the epilogue at the end is also from Charlotte Sapori. So it's kind of, if I'm understanding this correctly, it's basically back to present day instead of recapping this diary, or journals, I should say, from the both of them and their life. And I think I'm going to read that for myself. No offense. Thank you so much for reading so well. KD, thank you so much for letting me read your book. And Kay, thank you for staying as long as you have. I wish you a pleasant night. Please sleep well. Take care of yourself. KD, you have been so amazing by being here as much as you have, even though you are in the UK and it is very late for you. You have a fantastic book. And I know that the other books that lead off from this are going to do so well. You have such a gift. You really do. And who knows? In the future, I might find myself knocking on your door again to read another of your books. But for now, please, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to post the link one more time. Please, please, please go check out her book, her author page, her other books. Check them all out. Good night and thank you. KD, you are welcome in here anytime you want. Even as I read other stories, you are welcome to be here. You are a part of the Bookfather family now, so thank you. And on that note, before I end the stream and raid out to somebody, I want to read to you the back cover of In the Shadow of the Black Moon by Melissa Roos. Today is Sunday, so we'll start this book in 1 week. Thursday night, I'll do something else to help get my mind to relax off of the current book. Cheers, Jason. Absolutely, Katie. You are a treat and a pleasure. Thank you. I mean it. So yeah, Thursday we'll do something else. ATS probably, as I mentioned before. And then on Sunday, we'll get started on this brand new book But, like I said, let me read the back to you, so that way you've got an idea of what's coming up. Bree Thompson has endured a devastating loss, one that haunts her every day. Desperate for a fresh start, she heads to the East Coast, hoping the sun, the sand, and the sea will help her heal. There, Bree discovers a charming house by the water and a crew to help her renovate it. As she begins to rebuild her life, one of them may even have the power to mend her broken heart. But just as things start to improve, a new threat emerges. Someone is watching her, waiting in the shadows, ready to take everything she's fought to regain. Dive into this mystery romance filled with the perfect balance of romantic tension and suspense. In the Shadows of the Black Moon. So I've not cracked this open at all, and I'm gonna put the book down here so it stays in a safe spot. And that's what we'll start in a week from now. So there you go. All right. Let me find someone we can go say hello to. Who do we have on? Right, meow. Boy, there's a lot of people on right now. Sheesh. So many people. I think the donation button is good to go for me now. Just an update. Oh, good. Thank you, Gemma. I'm glad to know that. It's always good when stuff is working. Gosh. Who should we raid to? I don't have anyone online that's reading right now, but there's a streamer that I was introduced to a while ago. Thanks for the bedtime reading. Absolutely, Mad Locust. It's a pleasure to have you. She's streaming Super Mario World right now. I want to say I met her through... Oh gosh, who the hell was it? It might have been Mr. Thomas or maybe... I can't remember. But anyway, she's doing the old school thing and it looks like she's having a great time with it. So please copy this raid message if you're still here for the raid. And then we'll go say hello to Jamie. Make sure I spell that right. Thank you for the reading. Have a good night. Thanks for being here. Can't wait to start your book. And thank you again for giving me that opportunity. If you don't have my number, Melissa, can you get it, please, from our mutual friend? I just want to ask you a couple of questions about the book so I know, a few things to expect or not expect. Is that okay? If we do that, if we just text each other real quick? Yes, you can text me? Okay, cool. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, the raid has begun. Thank you for being here. Thank you for making my night amazing. Thank you for all the love and support. It means a lot to me. I'm sad that we finished this book, but I'm so glad that it had the ending that it had. It was perfect, the cherry on top. And now we move on to the next adventure. So until then, hope you all have a wonderful evening. Please take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and have a great night.